Hey, I'm Amanda, wife, mother, and follower of Christ, and welcome to the Ducks in a Row podcast. I'm a homeschool mama and entrepreneur, and I have a master's degree in social work with a passion for helping others organize their life. Buckle up for a ride into sharing all I know about time management, productivity, crushing goals, wellness, organizing, and faith. I am so glad you're here, and I hope I can help you get your ducks in a row. Hey guys, I just wanted to talk to you really quick about my latest offering through Ducks in a Row called virtual organizing. So what is virtual organizing? Well, first we start with a free consult call where we get to know each other and your organizing needs. I will then develop an estimate for organizing your space based on photos and videos that you send me. Once you've agreed, I will begin to develop a very comprehensive outline on how and what to purge from the space and then how to reorganize it. I will also include a vision board for the space, including photos and links to possible products and organizing solutions. Then you do the work and I'm available via voice texting or email to guide you, provide accountability, and answer any and all questions you might have. If this is something that sounds good to you, that you think you might need for your space or for someone you know, be sure to reach out or go to the show notes where I have everything linked. Okay, guys, let's get to the show. Hello, friends. We are back again for another episode of the Ducks in a Row podcast. I am so glad that you have decided to join me once again here. And today I have another guest. I have just been enjoying these guests so much, especially because some of them are like my very best friends. Some of them are people I've met on the internet, but some of them are just really good friends. And today that is the case. I have a really good friend to join us here, and I am so excited to introduce you guys to her. She has been a big part of my life, and it's really funny because she lives like 5 hours away from me. She's in New York, but she's been a really big part of my life for like 3 or 4 years now. We've been talking on an app called Voxer with another friend, Jill, who you guys have met. She's been on a couple times as well. But we talk every day and we just kind of like mentor one another. We are business-minded ladies, and we also are very like-minded in a lot of other ways. We're Christian women. And so we're always pulling God into it, and we're moms. And anyway, we just have the best time chatting. But I did not know Alison before I was introduced to her through Jill. And so we've definitely hung out in person more than once, but our relationship is mostly over Voxer. And it just always makes me laugh in the amazing ways that God works and puts people in your life, and the ways in which he puts people in your life. And she's just a gem. I mean, she is a true gem of a person. To know her is to love her. And so we're going to be chatting about, she works from home. She is a mortgage loan officer, which I find fascinating. Definitely not something I could ever wrap my little puny mind around. But she is good at it. She works from home. She has young kids. She's always trying to like balance and juggle all the things, right? And so we're going to be talking about that from a productivity standpoint, but we're going to talk about lots of other things too. And so I am just so excited, you guys. So why don't we go ahead and get into it? So without further ado, here is Alison Roy. Hi, Alison. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Amanda, for having me. This is so exciting. I just storied about it that we were recording today. So I was like, stay tuned for the podcast.
Yes, and I actually saw that, and I did share it, so that's good. I love that you did that without me even having to ask. That's wonderful.
Well, yeah, I was camera ready, so yeah.
I love it. You were camera ready. I had to break the news to Alison that we're actually not Zooming this, and so she's all like prettied up. I was like, well, you're gonna have to go get lunch now, so like, don't let that makeup go to waste, girlfriend.
I know, totally.
And that is always my mentality with makeup. I'm like, I'm only putting makeup on if it's worth it.
Absolutely. I was like that with my perfume in college. I was like, if I'm going out and I'm putting perfume on, we are going out and having fun. Like, I was like, yes.
That's so funny because, yes, perfume is expensive. You don't want to waste that if you're just sitting around your apartment,
right.
You know? Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. That's hilarious.
And when I went on a bad date, like whenever I went on a bad date, I would say that was a waste of 3 squirts of perfume.
Yes.
That's a waste.
Oh my gosh. That reminds me of that country song, Did I Shave My Legs for This?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was a really good song.
That was a good song, and so true. It's like, oh, this is a terrible date. Why did I shave my legs for this? That is so funny.
I know, totally.
Oh my gosh. Oh, anyway, well, this is a good picture of Alison and I's relationship, just talking about nonsense like this, because sometimes that's what we do. Okay, Alison, so why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Alison Roy. I guess, first and foremost, I'm a wife. I've been married since 2014, so 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 2 small children, one soon to be 7
Wow.
and a 4-year-old. And so, yes, they are young and at a glorious age. And then I also am a mortgage loan officer by trade, mm-hmm. I guess, in my current career. And yeah, so I always have something going on in my life.
You really do always have something going on. And it's so funny. You just said your kids' his age, and I was like, when we first started talking on Voxer, well, I met in person, you had a baby. Like, Evelyn was a baby. Yeah. Like an actual baby.
Yeah, Evelyn was a baby.
Oh,
yeah, and Andrew was like 3. Yeah, so
it's funny.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. And
yeah.
I was in the intro, I was kind of, talking about how we've been friends for like 4 years, like mainly via Voxer, which just makes me laugh. Like,
I know.
But not that we haven't spent time together in person, but it's just funny but good, so good, And I was just saying how I love how God blesses that and just brings people into your life. And it doesn't matter if you're next door neighbors. Like, if he has a plan for you to have somebody in your life, he's going to find a way.
It's so true.
Yes. All right. So
it's so true.
Like I said, I have known you for many years now, and I have known you to have a couple different endeavors or jobs. So can you tell us a little bit about your past careers and what has ultimately made you land in the world of mortgages, of all things?
Well, I guess, I went to school for occupational therapy, mm-hmm. and I worked in OT for years and years and years, and mainly in healthcare. I moved up in the ranks in healthcare to mm-hmm. being a director of rehab, and then what ended up happening with healthcare and the shift of all the stuff that goes down, healthcare is one of like the major economies in the world, major sector. And mm-hmm. so then I ended up advancing into being a nursing home administrator. And, people talk about moving up in leadership and management and everything. And then a lot of people don't talk about how much responsibility it is and how you have to be available all the time. And so, it worked for me for a while, but once I started having children, mm-hmm. it was like, this isn't worth being married to a building. And then also having kids and a family. And so I ended up making the decision just to come home and figure it out, mm-hmm. Figure out income and how to, I guess, move on, because it was just too much. Mm-hmm. And I was a nursing home administrator, I think from 2016 through mm-hmm. 2019 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And my son was born in 2016. And I knew when he was born, I'm like, I am not going to be able to do this long term. I'm going to have to find something else to do.
Yep.
And that's when I actually started kind of going, you know what? I love people. I love learning about people's stories. I love helping people. Mm-hmm. What can I do in 8 hours that makes me the most money, has the most flexibility? And I kept on kind of asking myself this question. And so at that time, life coaching was a huge thing.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to do my life coaching, and I got my certification and became a professional life coach. And I started coaching people on the side. My goal was always just to coach and figure it out and then transition out of the long-term healthcare, mm-hmm. in the nursing home. And long story short, I ended up basically doing that. I left after my daughter was born, I left my nursing home administrator career and just started coaching. And then kind of 2020 happened. Everyone talks about that.
Right.
And, it just, I know. It's like, I feel like there was a major shift for everybody. So it's like, it's like almost lame to say,
But it's so true.
It's so true. It's so true. So 2020 happened, and, I coached all through 2020, and I was kind of like, I need to get something a little bit more robust, like something. I was kind of looking to see something to use my skills in more management and, my marketing skills and all of that, that I've had, because I enjoyed that part of my nursing home administrator job. And I was it was New Year's Eve of 2020. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to become a realtor this year. Okay. This is seriously what I thought. Like, New Year's Eve, okay? And
but just a little backstory, if I can interject really quickly. A little backstory about our friend Alison is like, this is so how you are. You're like, okay, what can I do this next year? Oh, well, I'm just going to go be a realtor. But the beautiful thing about your ideas like that is like, you do it. You actually do it. You're one of those people that says that you're going to do something and then you actually do it. So I admire that so much about you. Yeah. Now, you didn't do realty, but the closest thing to being a realtor, I'm sure. Okay, so go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, like New Year's Eve, I was looking, I was on the YouTube, like looking at what it would like take to be a realtor and all this stuff. And like in the suggested videos, it was like, it showed mortgage loan officer. And I was like, what's an LO? I'm like, a loan officer? Right. And I immediately got in my mind, like, a cop hat, like a police officer hat, and like all this stuff. And I'm like going, what is this? A loan officer? Is it someone that like guards a safe or something? I don't know. I was like, I don't know. So I started like watching these videos, and I was going, oh my gosh, this seems a little bit more in my wheelhouse. Doing the loans, I'm like, it's a little bit more intricate, and I'm like, it's just like building a chart in the nursing home. It's kind of how I thought about it. And so I was like, I'm gonna do this. This seems a little bit more in my wheelhouse. Right. And so New Year's Day 2021, I decided to I signed up for the course to be a loan officer, and I was licensed within like 6 weeks. Started my job and kind of hit the ground running.
That's quick.
Building.
Yeah.
My business. Yeah.
That's quick. I love it. And I love how just open you are to change. I mean, that is something that so many people fear in life is, oh my gosh, well, I can't, I've been doing this for years, or I've been doing this for years, and how could I just up and change? But you seem to not really fear that, which is definitely an admirable quality. And so the next question kind of segues into that. So I've always admired your ability to be able to shift and pivot when it comes to work. How have you been able to do this so freely? And what advice do you have for anyone who needs a shift in career, but is too afraid to take such a big leap?
Well, I guess my thoughts on that, like being able to do everything so freely, like I'm really not married to a lot of stuff. And I know that sounds like in another way you could say, well, she's not committed. Well, not really, though. I really feel like I'm married to my husband, Dave. Everything else is kind of like relative, you know?
Right. Yes.
And so I guess I feel like I look at my life, and this is just my perspective of how I see things when it comes to, I guess, doing this so freely, like just being able to shift is, it's kind of like I always have this intuition of what season I'm in my life. And I really I would say probably one of the pillars in my life is I really believe in seasons in your life.
Yes.
And that is where I am, like seasons, reasons, lifetimes, and I kind of go in this vein. And I really think about that as a career as well, for a career. And to tell you the truth, I mean, if I had to speak globally about my career, my life, my career, just looking back from high school to now, I almost feel like it was everything kind of springboarded off of everything. And it's one of those things where you just got to have to embrace the season of your life.
Yes.
Like, even with you. I mean, like you, Amanda, homeschooling your boys. It's not your time to sign up for a power career. You know what I mean? Like it's the season. It's all the season we're in.
Yep.
And so that's kind of I would say my one pillar that I think about is I'm not married to something, and I don't really put a lot of my identity in my career per se. I really put into it, okay, where am I in this season? So the advice I would give to anyone who wants to shift in their career and you're afraid to take the big leap, don't take a big leap. I would start taking steps into it, and I would just start feeling it out. And that's something too, is I've never made a giant leap per se. And I know a lot of people do, you know, you hear that. I actually really didn't make that step. I was doing both and. Don't be afraid to do both and, I guess is what I should say.
Yeah, test the waters a little bit. Yeah,
and test the waters. And if you and don't, just because you have one stop sign, like let's say you test the waters toward a new career and it's like, ooh, I didn't like that, I'm not going to do it. Like, unless you get a super strong feeling, like, nope, this isn't for me, done, then be done. But if it's kind of like a little bit of an ick factor, that just might be yourself pushing back on you. So you got to get like 3 or 4 absolutely not before you decide not to move forward.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
So that's how I would do that.
I love that. And I love especially what you said. And I think that one of my biggest takeaways from what you just said is not putting your identity in your career. And I think so often that is what we're doing. I feel like that's like the American way. It's just you put your identity in your career. It weighs everything, right? And I know us being Christians, you know, our identity is in Christ, but also our families come first. And when that is the order of things, I think you are more naturally open to do some pivoting and to see what God has for you, and you know, and explore it a little more. But I also love what you said about just taking baby steps. I think that's the other thing that people like. They think they have to dive, head first. Forget this old life. I'm brand new. And sometimes that might be the case. You know, sometimes maybe you do have to do that. But I think more often than not, we can kind of test the waters and see what God has for us on the other side. Okay, and then
absolutely.
And then so the next thing, so mortgages are not typically something that we talk about here on this podcast, but I think that having a good understanding of the right kind of investment is very helpful for those of us pursuing productivity. So I would love to know your best advice when it comes to making the investment in a home.
I would say my biggest thing, especially for people who right now the market is just wild, which is totally, it is what it is. Yeah. To tell you the truth. And I would say, number one, if you want to buy a home, or if you're like, if you want to move forward and buy a home, do not let this market stop you. Mm-hmm. This is only a downturn. It's going to turn back up. Like, this is a cycle. It's going to cycle back around. Yep. And so I really, like, whenever people tell me, oh, I'm going to wait until this happens, it's like, just don't put your life on hold. Before you know it, it is just going to just move forward. So number one is, if you're going to do that, the best advice I would tell you is get with a loan officer, get with a professional, and let them know your story, your circumstance, where you're at, what you're thinking, what you're wanting. Mm-hmm. And this is literally what I do whenever I talk to somebody, whenever you're making an investment. Mm-hmm. Going back to the seasons of your life, like if you're a college student or you're in that season of life where renting makes sense for you, then please rent. Don't like put the pressure on yourself to buy a home and be responsible for a home and all of that. Like, I am not anti-renting for this season. Like, when I was single, not married, like totally traveling around, living my best life, like I could not even imagine purchasing a home because I was traveling and all of this stuff, so I was like, it wasn't worth it for me. Right. But if you're wanting to buy a home, you have to get that personalized consultation and advice from a professional so that you can understand the whole loan process. Right. And then another thing I would totally say, and this is so negative, but I just want to tell you, like, the internet is so wrong about the housing market sometimes and about how loans work. Because, like, you know, when you see, you know, coming across your TV or whatever, the mortgage interest rate today is yada, yada, yada. And they'll tell you the mortgage interest rate. Or if you see an advertisement that a lender can get you in at such and such a rate. Well, that's with an 850 credit score. You're paying, you know, 2.5 points interest. And so, like, that's another thing too, is like, it's like trying to find what the best weight loss diet is on the internet. Like, everybody, mortgages is the same exact way. It's just so confusing. So just talk to a person. And go from there. So that's what I would do. And don't be afraid to educate yourself too, and decipher. And if it's too good, if you think it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Right.
So that's really, truly my advice.
Love it. No, that is very good. And I think that it kind of goes back to what you were saying in the last question is I love how you're talking about seasons. Like, and that's another thing. People think, oh, I have to own. And it might be the right thing for somebody, but it also might not be. So talking to a professional, and I'm always such a big proponent of that too. It's like, and like, listen, the internet's great. I love it. I put a lot of advice out there on the internet, but sometimes just talking to a real life person that knows what they're talking about is so helpful and is really just the best way to go. So I love that. I guess I didn't even realize you could do that. So someone can just call you up and just get some personal, you know, advice.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, I love
it. And I don't even have a dog in the fight too. Cause, well, and another thing too about the internet with them putting information out there, it's not that the information is wrong. It's just, with the mortgage industry, you're speaking to the masses when you put it out online. And so it's not to your individual situation. And so then it gets confusing when people talk about that, you know?
Yes, and that's so true. What a great example with the diet. I mean, that is so true. Because diet, you know, it could be different for everybody and whatever, like, physical ailment you've got going on. My gosh. So that's actually a really good analogy. I love it. Okay, so now I'm excited about this next question because it has a little bit more to do with being productive. So I know that you work from home and sometimes your kids are even there. So many of us struggle with keeping on task and being productive when we work out of the home, present company included. But it is a recent reality that more and more people are working from home. So how do you organize your day and get it all done? And like, in reality, I'm sure not every day you get it all done, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And it took a while for me to get into my groove to do all of this, too. And I recently just added another component into my day. So what I basically do, like, for my work day, I structure my day into 4 main things. And believe it or not, my business coach always tells me, you need to do this in the same order and all this stuff. And I was like, no, I can't do that. Like, I go based on priority for the day. Yes. But I always have 4 main priorities, you know, in my day. I have like 4 pillars is what I would say. Yeah. In my work day. And that is something too, is when you work from home, you truly need to say, okay, this is work time. And now this is lunchtime, and now we're going back to work or whatever. Like, you really do have to, like, talk to yourself like you're a child and say, Allie, it's time to work. So that's what we do.
I love it.
So every day I have 4 pillars in my job. So I just added social media. So I've made a commitment to get on social media every day, and at least just pop on there, put a little educational post up just to keep myself top of mind. Because that's important right now with mortgages and everything. And then every single day I do social media, I do lead follow-up, I do lead generation, and then I do my file setup. And so basically, if you really look at this, and when you own a business, you need to decipher whether you're working in your business or on your business. So if you were to break down these 4 tasks, I have 2 of my tasks are working in my business. And 2 of my tasks are working on my business every day. So each day, each of these components have different amounts in the day, because some days some days if I get a lot of files in, a lot of contracts in for purchases, then I'm going to probably make that a pretty big file setup day, and all of that. But I make sure I touch all 4 of these things every single day.
Okay.
And so I do all of my business based on referrals. So when I say lead generation, what I'm basically doing is I'm reaching out to people and touching base with them and like seeing how they are. And it's not work for me at all. I literally call like my realtor partners and try to get new realtor partners and like just start talking to them and going, hey, what do you need? What's going on? Like, you know, and kind of go from there. So that is not hard for me at all.
Right.
Lead follow-up is how I organize my day. I basically have a 7-point system where I either call, text, or email lead follow-up. So if you give me a referral, I make sure I follow up with them and get them going. And then, you know, social media I'm still getting better at that and working that into my day.
Yeah.
And then file setup is the boring stuff of actually doing the, you know, files.
That's the working in your business, right? Or is that the working on your business?
Yes.
That's the working in. Okay.
No, that's the working in.
Yeah.
I would say social and lead gen are working on, and then the lead follow-up is working in the business, and then file setup. Because the lead follow-up, like when I get a hold of somebody, if you're wanting to get a mortgage, and you have questions and everything, that's working in the business.
Right.
I'm kind of telling you, okay, these are the documents I need, yada, yada, yada,
Gotcha.
you know, all that. So
I love
that's how
that.
I kind of organize my day.
Yes, and I love that. And this isn't the first time I've heard you say this. And I actually forgot about that whole, like, I don't even know what you want to call it. It's not analogy. That whole setup of working on and working in, because as business owners, and even though you do work for a company, at the end of the day, you're still an entrepreneur with what you're doing. So being a business owner, like that is, you're definitely working on and in, you know, it's not a job that you're going and working for somebody else and that you're working in the job, whatever that is. But as a business owner, you've got to do both. And I think breaking that up is so good, because I think a lot of times we can get we like one or the other better, you know, I'm sure everybody's different with that, but when you like one or the other better, you want to spend all your time doing that, you know, and in reality, you need to have that balance, you know, on a day to day. So yes, I love that. And I love how you're like, okay, Allie, I'm going to eat lunch, but then when I'm done, I'm back to work. I know I have a hard time with that. The first part of my day is always homeschooling my boys, unless it's summer. But I do have a hard time. I will sit at lunch and I'll still be doing this and that. And you need that break, and you kind of need that little shift in your mind, because it helps with productivity in the long run, to take that second and okay, I'm off work for this lunch break right now, and then I'm going to get back to it. So yeah, I love that.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely.
And then this kind of goes along, I think, a little bit with the last question. You have kind of talked to me before about your binder system. What exactly, just in layman's terms, or as easy as you can lay it out, I know that's something that helps you stay organized as a business owner. So can you give us a little picture into what that is?
Yes, I actually am a huge fan of the binder system. I do think it's because I used to be a therapist, and we basically would have all of our patients in binders and have everybody have a face sheet. So you basically worked your binder all day. And in management, I started this binder system when I was a director of therapy, and I basically have applied this to my personal finances and my life.
Yes.
And then I also apply it to my business. So basically, I guess let me start with my home binder. I have just a binder system of my budget, namely. So I've got my monthly, I've got a calendar, and for each month, and I write down when my bills are due, because my husband and I are really trying to get out of debt and get our student loans paid off this year. And so, yeah, that's a huge goal. And then I also have a list of our bills every month. And so then I have different tabs based on our net worth and all of this stuff. And so I use this binder just to track my finances.
Yes.
And then I also have a section in there, my date. I actually do what I like to affectionately call my GGM functional budget. And so GGM stands for gas, groceries, miscellaneous. And so that's what I call that. So
I love it.
every time we get paid, I get my little budget. And I actually do this at least like every other day. I check all of our accounts. And I basically subtract everything off of my working budget. And so it really helps me stay accountable to not overspend or anything, because I'm a spender. If I see something that's super cute, I'm like, oh, I'm getting that, and then before you know it, you get the credit card bill at the end of the month and it's awful. And you're going, I guess I don't love that much,
Right.
So that's what I do that. And it works out good. And it also makes me feel very empowered to do that with the binder system, and then I also have my kids' school schedule in there.
Nice.
And just little bit basic things. So I do that. And then for my work binder, I have, everybody gets a lead sheet whenever I get a lead, and I just take down notes about everything, make sure everything's thorough and all of that. And then when you become a lead and you apply and are pre-approved, I put you in my pre-approved and looking tab. And then once you go under contract, and so then I have a tab called my pipeline, which is when you go under contract, I put you under the my pipeline tab. And then, like, let's say somebody comes to me, I give them advice. They have to have credit repair and all that, and they're like maybe 3 or 6 months out. I also have tabs January through December in my working tab here. And so what I do then is I take my lead sheet, and let's say I'm like, okay, dude, you got major credit repair. You've got at least 6 months out, ahead of you. I take their sheet and I'll put it in, like, for today's March. So then I'll put it in September, in the September tab. So I know I need to follow up with them in September as well. So it just kind of gives me a little bit of a way. I know it is kind of old school. Like, I know people can do this on the internet, but I love my binders. It just helps me.
Well, I'm a fellow like tactical, needs it to be on paper type person. I mean, and when I started my business, I do have an Excel spreadsheet and all the things, right? But it was like, I felt like such a dinosaur trying to like talk myself into doing it. But that, I see no reason why you can't do both. And obviously you know that I have developed a planner, and I have that but I still use my phone calendar too. In my opinion, why not do both, unless it's going to make you more confused. But for the most part, that check and balances is usually really nice. And I know for me, it has helped me with lots of things. So I love that binder. That like is like an organizer's dream. That like gets me giddy. Like, this is cross-referenced, and then I move that to there, and I'm like,
I know. Well, that's what I do. I actually that's what I use your planner for, though, too, is I use my phone, and I have all our doctor's appointments and all that stuff in there. And so what I do then is I use your planner to combine my professional life and my personal life. So whenever I plan my week, I'll add in like, oh, this is the call I have with so-and-so. I've already arranged this. I'm going out to lunch with so-and-so. And like, I then put that all in my calendar. And then on the planner, I then will put like on there social during this time right now. It looks like I'm going to need to do a lot of lead follow-up here, and stuff. And so I kind of plan my week with the planner then.
Yes, and you can be more detailed in the planner. Yeah. You can like write stuff out more so. And then my husband, like, listen, and he is supportive of me, but he is a phone guy through and through with his calendar. And he actually will in the notes, like write a book in the notes on his phone about what that particular appointment has to do with. And I'm like, see, I'd rather like write that with my hand. But I respect his wishes, and as far as like shared family things, that's what I'm putting on, the phone calendar. But I put it in my planner too. I do both. But I like how a planner just kind of gets, in the brain dumps, it just kind of like gets all of that out in a different way. And maybe it is just because we're from an older generation. But
I don't
anyway.
know, but you can see the holes in your schedule then. And like when you see your like with the planner, you open it up, you see the week, and then you're going, you know what? I'm going to take the kid or whatever this afternoon because we don't really have much going on.
Right.
And I know that they've been cooped up in the house, so let's go here or whatever. And it's like, it works out really well.
Yes.
And again, it goes back to, it's so imperative. Like, and this is something I really learned, especially working from home, is you really have to schedule your priorities, not prioritize your schedule.
Yes.
Like, you have to put in what you need to get done in there and then let your other parts work around. It's not the opposite. Like, it really is. That is such a concept it took a while for me to grasp, to tell you the truth.
Yes. But that is so true.
A long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the same thing with a planner, like something that's always bugged me about like the online versions of calendars is or your phone, you can't see the whole week at a time a lot of time. Well, you can see it, but all it is a little dot. It doesn't actually tell you what's on the calendar. I need to know what's going on all the other days so that I know if I can slip this in here or if it's going to affect something on a different day, So there's many reasons. I could go on and on about why I love paper planners, but we are running low on time here. What's that?
I know. It's so true. I said, and the energy factor too. If you know you have a full day, you're going to need recovery time.
Exactly.
Or you know a meeting's going to be a huge time suck, and you need to decompress after it.
Absolutely.
It's one of those things too. You got to plan your energy.
Yep. That is so true. And when you can't see it all, you're just putting it all on there and not even realizing, oh wait, I probably shouldn't have done that back to back. So yes, for sure. All right. Well then, just to wrap up, how do you see yourself serving your audience and your clientele moving forward? So what types of things are in the works? You talked a little bit about social media. So is there anything kind of pressing in the works?
I would say right now, obviously it's spring market season at the time of this being in March. So my business is about ready to really pick up. People are going to start wanting to shop and also list their home. So this is kind of haymaking season for me. Coming up here between now and like the end of July is going to probably be pretty wild. I'm really hoping that my company gets licensed in New York State this year so I can grow my business in New York State. Because currently I'm in Pennsylvania, Minnesota, and North Carolina. I help people in those states. And so I'm really hoping to bust into New York State here in the next 30 to 60 days.
Nice.
So that's probably the biggest thing. And then obviously social media, just getting good at that. And really putting myself out there authentically. It's hard to do. Yeah. I feel like Garth on the Wayne's World, sometimes where I want people to think that I'm approachable. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I would say that's my big theme. Putting it out there in the audience that, hey, I'm an approachable person. I'm going to give it to you straight and we're going to go with it. And so, that's what I have to look forward to here this year.
Wonderful. Well, that is excellent. And of course, as always, I have loved this conversation and we could talk all day because, we usually do.
Right. Yeah.
But probably not everybody wants to hear all of the conversations we always have on Voxer. Some of them are probably just for the three of us, But but no, it's always good. And of course, I thank you so much for being on and all of your insight and wisdom. And like I said in the intro, to know Alison is to love her, and she is a wealth of knowledge, the wisdom. You're like a year older than me, but you're like so wise. I just don't even I don't know how you packed all that life experience into those years, but you did. So I appreciate that so much, and and your perspective on all this. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. We will see you next time. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I really hope you subscribe and share with your friends. And don't forget to tag me on social media when you do. Always remember, lead your life with passionate gratitude. God bless. Until next time.